My name is Agnes Berger. I'm 30 years old, and for a long time, I thought patience was my best quality. Turns out it was just my favorite excuse for letting people walk all over me. I live in Denver, work as an accountant, the kind of job people pretend to be impressed by while slowly glazing over. My life used to be predictable: spreadsheets, coffee, meal prep, sleep, repeat. Then I met Ethan Reyes. Ethan was the opposite of me in every way: loud, charming, a walking group chat notification. He worked in marketing for a big events company, always in the middle of some launch or party or after party. When we started dating, I thought his energy was exciting. He made me feel like my quiet life had been stuck on mute, and he'd just found the volume button. 2 years later, I agreed to move in with him. That's where this story really starts. I didn't move in with Ethan. I moved in with Ethan and his best friend, Harper Quinn. Harper had just gone through a breakup. The way Ethan explained it, she was a wreck, and he couldn't just abandon her. The first week after I moved in, she started showing up in oversized hoodies and leggings, plopping herself on our couch with a blanket like she'd been assigned that spot by the city zoning office. At first, I didn't mind. Breakups hit people differently. She cried, vented, scrolled through her phone while Ethan made her tea. I listened. I stayed kind. That's what you're supposed to do when you love someone. You support their people. I just didn't realize I was signing up to be in a two-person relationship with a permanent third wheel. Harper stopped being a guest in less than a week. She had a favorite mug, a spot on the couch, a blanket she left draped over the armrest. She'd walk in with takeout like she lived there, toe off her shoes, and sigh dramatically. "Long day?" Ethan would ask. "You have no idea," she'd say, then launch into a monologue about her ex, her coworkers, her neighbor's dog, the barista who breathed wrong in her direction. Sometimes she'd look at me and add, "You're so lucky, Agnes. Ethan's like the only decent guy I know." It sounded like a compliment. It felt like a warning. Over time, the comments shifted. If I wanted a quiet night, Harper would roll her eyes. "You two are like 80. Live a little." If I asked Ethan if we could have one evening alone, just us, she would sigh. "Wow, clingy much?" she'd say with a smirk, half joking, fully not. I kept telling myself it was temporary, just until she got back on her feet, just until she stopped crying over her ex-girlfriend and started living her own life again. Yes, ex-girlfriend. Harper only dated women, which meant everyone insisted I had nothing to worry about. I wasn't worried she'd steal my boyfriend. I was worried she already had the part of him I was supposed to share. The night my older sister Lena came over, everything snapped into focus. Lena is 33, sarcastic, and allergic to nonsense. If life were a TV show, she'd be the character everyone quotes in the comments. Ethan ordered takeout and passed it off as us cooking together. Harper sat on the kitchen counter, scrolling on her phone, chiming in on everything I said. When I introduced them, Harper tilted her head. "Oh, so this is the famous big sister," she said. "I expected someone softer." Lena smiled, all teeth. "And I expected someone less comfortable in other people's kitchens. Guess we're both surprised." Harper laughed like she wasn't offended, but her grip on her phone tightened. Dinner was a tug-of-war disguised as small talk. Harper kept slipping in little jabs. "Agnes is such a homebody. If it weren't for Ethan dragging her out, she'd read spreadsheets for fun." Lena dabbed her mouth with a napkin. "Better a homebody with a job than a nomad with a personality made of drama and delivery apps." The silence that followed was sharp and perfect. Ethan coughed. I stared at my plate, fighting a smile. After Harper stormed out early, Ethan jumped to her defense. "Lena was out of line," he said, pacing. "Harper's been through a lot." "Lena was honest," I replied quietly. "And Harper's been through our front door 300 times this month." When Lena and I finally had a moment alone, she scanned the living room. Half-empty wine glasses, Harper's blanket, her shoes by the door. "This place feels like a dorm run by a podcast host and her favorite caller," she muttered. I laughed, then sighed. "Am I being dramatic?" "No," she said. "You're being patient, which is cute and dangerous. You keep rewarding bad behavior with peace and rent money." That stuck with me. You keep rewarding bad behavior with peace and rent money. The next morning, Ethan was rushing to work, phone glued to his ear. Harper's name flashed on the screen, as usual. She was his first call of the day and his last. He kissed my cheek on his way out. "We'll watch a movie tonight. Just us," he said. By the time evening rolled around, Harper was on our couch again. That night, lying in bed, I stared at the ceiling and thought, if I don't change something, this will be the rest of my life. Me, Ethan, and his emotional support hurricane. So I did something, quietly. I opened my laptop and started planning a trip. Not just any trip. Ethan had been talking for months about wanting to get away to the mountains. Estes Park, cabin by the lake, no emails, no stress, he'd say, usually while texting Harper about some meme. I booked it. A small cabin by a lake, mountain view, his favorite restaurant nearby. I paid the deposit, planned the drive. I pictured us sitting by the fire without someone live tweeting their trauma in the background. I didn't tell Lena right away. When I finally mentioned it, she raised an eyebrow. So, Operation Remind Him He Has a Girlfriend, huh? Something like that, I said. One last chance. If this doesn't work... She didn't push. She didn't need to. We both knew what I meant. On Friday, I left work early, cleaned the apartment, and set my laptop on the counter with the booking confirmation open. When Ethan walked in, I was actually excited. Hopeful, even. That should have been my first warning. He walked in still laughing at something Harper had said on speakerphone. When he saw me, he hung up and smiled. "What's with the face? You look like you either got promoted or adopted a dog without telling me." "Come here," I said, turning the laptop toward him. He leaned in, reading the screen. Pictures of the cabin glowed back at him. Underneath, a note I had typed in the comments section. "Just us. No phones, no stress." His eyes widened. "Wait, you booked this?" "Yeah," I said. "You've been talking about it forever. Thought we could actually go." For the first 5 seconds, he looked genuinely happy. He wrapped an arm around my waist. "This is amazing, Agnes. Seriously." I let myself breathe. Maybe, finally, we were back to us. Then his expression shifted, just slightly. I watched it happen like a cloud passing over the sun. "Hey," he said slowly, "do you think we could invite Harper?" I blinked. "Come again?" "She's been really depressed," he rushed on. "Getting away would be good for her. It'd be fun. Like a little group trip." I waited for the punchline. It never came. "Ethan," I said, keeping my voice calm, "this trip is for us. You and me. No third wheel. No constant commentary. Just us." He pulled back, crossing his arms. "Wow," he said. "You really don't get it." "Get what?" I asked. "That she's my best friend," he snapped. "She needs me right now. You're acting like I'm choosing her over you." I went quiet for a moment. "You kind of are," I said softly. His whole posture changed. The switch flipped. "You're being controlling again," he said, pacing. "Every time I try to include someone, you make it about you. It's exhausting, Agnes." "I've said nothing about her being here almost every day," I reminded him. "I planned one weekend. For us. And the first thing you do is ask how to bring her." He scoffed. "You act like spending time with her is some threat. It's not. This is why Harper says you don't understand how friendships work." That one landed. Not because it was true, but because it showed me exactly where I ranked. "You know what?" he said, turning back to me, eyes blazing. "If you can't handle my friends, you don't deserve me." There it was, the line. He expected a scene. Tears. Begging. A fight he could replay later for sympathy points. Instead, I just looked at him and said one word. "Okay." His face flickered, confusion cutting through the anger. "Okay? That's it? You're not even going to fight for us?" "You made it pretty clear what matters most," I said. "I'm just listening." He grabbed his keys off the counter. "You're impossible," he muttered. "I'm going to Harper's. At least she actually listens to me." "Sounds about right," I replied, turning the laptop away from him and closing the tab. The door slammed. The apartment went quiet. I waited for rage, heartbreak, something messy to crash over me. It didn't. I just felt still, like all the noise had finally been turned off. An hour later, I picked up my phone and scrolled to Lena's name. "Hey," I said when she answered. "What are you doing this weekend?" "Depends," she replied. "Why do you sound like someone who just quit a job or a relationship?" "I have a cabin booked," I said, "in Estes Park. It was supposed to be a romantic weekend." "Oh," she said slowly, past tense. "Yeah, Ethan wants to bring Harper. I said no. He left." There was a pause, then, "So, you inviting your favorite sister instead?" I smiled for the first time all day. "If you bring snacks and your best petty commentary." "Done," she said. "Text me the address. We'll make it a grief retreat for bad decisions." The next morning, we hit the road. Just me and Lena, music low, windows cracked. My phone buzzed every few miles, Ethan's name lighting up the screen. First annoyed, then wounded, then guilty. I put the phone face down in the cup holder. The cabin was even more beautiful than the photos. It sat near the lake, surrounded by trees, and a silence that felt alive. No Harper, no constant notifications, no emotional triage. That night, Lena and I sat on the porch with cheap soda and overpriced chips. You look more relaxed already, she said. Probably because I haven't heard Harper's voice in 12 hours, I replied. She laughed. See, life gets better when you stop babysitting grown adults. Later, when she went inside to shower, I stayed on the porch alone. My phone buzzed again. A long paragraph preview from Ethan. If you loved me, you'd fight for us. You're being dramatic. You'll regret this. I stared at the screen, then locked it and set it aside. Somewhere inside my duffel bag, wrapped in velvet in a shoebox labeled bedroom top drawer, my grandfather's watch rested quietly. The last thing he ever gave me. The one object I'd sworn no one would ever take from me. At that moment, I had no idea how wrong I was. I just knew this. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't afraid of the quiet. I was learning to trust it. When Lena and I drove back into Denver on Sunday night, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Stillness. Not peace. Stillness. The kind that comes after a storm passes, but before you open the door to check the damage. Ethan was sitting on the couch when I walked in. TV on. Smile plastered on like stage makeup. Hey, how was the trip? He asked, like he wasn't the reason I went with my sister instead of him. It was good, I said, setting my bag down. That's it? He said with a little laugh. No stories? No pictures? You wouldn't care about them, I said simply, and walked toward the bedroom. I half expected him to follow, to push, to argue. Instead, he stayed glued to the couch, pretending everything was fine. Pretending was his superpower. The next morning, something shifted. Ethan woke up early, humming, making breakfast like a 1950s sitcom husband. Eggs, toast, even coffee set out in my favorite mug. He never did things like this. When he noticed I wasn't reacting, he pushed the plate toward me. I thought, maybe we should start fresh, he said softly. I replied, not looking up from my email. He kept smiling, but it twitched at the edges. That was the beginning of Ethan's perfect boyfriend era. Cooking, cleaning, asking about my day, commenting on how beautiful I looked even when I rolled out of bed like a wilted plant. None of it felt real. It wasn't affection. It was damage control. When Lena stopped by midweek to help me fix a shelf, she took one look around the apartment and grinned. Wow, did I enter the right place? Did Ethan hire a maid or join a cult? He cooked breakfast, I said flatly. She gasped. Call the cops. He's been body snatched. We laughed, but I felt the hollowness under it. While Lena pulled out her drill, Ethan walked into the kitchen. Hey, Lena, he said, fake polite. Hope you're doing well. Oh, great, she said. The emotional support bestie hasn't been here today, so the air feels breathable. Ethan froze. His smile died. Lena didn't even blink. Every time she spoke, someone's ego took shrapnel. When she left, Ethan turned to me. Your sister hates me. She doesn't hate you, I said. She hates how you treat me. His jaw clenched. I'm trying, Agnes. You're performing, I corrected. Not the same thing. He didn't respond. The silence stretched, and stretched, and stretched, until the apartment felt like a waiting room for a breakup no one wanted to schedule. The next few days were a slow descent into icy civility. Ethan would say, Good morning. I'd nod. He'd make dinner. I'd wash my plate and go to the bedroom. He'd try to sit close on the couch. I'd shift away politely. I wasn't punishing him. I just didn't have anything left to give. One evening, he cornered me in the kitchen. You've been off since the trip. Have I? I asked calmly. Yes, he snapped. You barely talk to me anymore. You're cold. You're distant. I leaned against the counter. You told me I didn't deserve you. I just assumed you meant it. He blinked, opened his mouth, closed it again. For the first time, Ethan had no script. Later that night, he locked himself in the bedroom and called Harper. I could hear the muffled sobbing, the dramatic retellings, the exaggerated versions of the story. She's being manipulative, Harper insisted loudly. Classic emotional punishment. Men do this all the time. I laughed from the hallway, not quietly. The conversation stopped. A second later, the bedroom door slammed. The next morning, I started doing what most people put off until the end of a relationship, untangling our lives. Quietly, methodically. Like pulling threads out of a knot that had been pulling at my throat for months. I opened my laptop and went down the list. Netflix canceled. Groceries subscription removed from joint account. Spotify switched back to my personal login. Gym membership updated billing. Utilities transferred. Everything I paid for, I took back. Everything in his name, I left alone. I didn't broadcast it. I didn't leave notes. I didn't make threats. I just reclaimed what was mine. Ethan didn't notice at first. He was too busy performing normalcy, posting selfies, going to brunch with Harper, pretending his life wasn't unraveling. It wasn't until a week later that he walked into the living room holding a letter. "Why does this say the internet account is being transferred?" he demanded. "Because it's under my name," I said. "So I moved it to my new plan." "You just decided that without talking to me?" "Pretty much." He stared at me like I'd slapped him. "You're trying to control everything." "No," I said, returning to my laptop. "I'm taking responsibility for what belongs to me. You can set up your own stuff. It's not complicated." He waited for an argument. I didn't give him one. He stormed off and slammed the bedroom door hard enough to rattle the picture frames. I didn't flinch. That week, every little question he asked became a test he hoped I'd fail. "Where's the charger?" "On the table." "Did you pay rent?" "Yes." "Are we still splitting groceries?" "No, I buy my own." No tone, no sarcasm, no anger. Just facts. And the calmer I became, the more panicked he grew. Emotional manipulators don't fear anger. They fear indifference. When I packed my clothes, I did it while he was at work. When I boxed up books and keepsakes, I labeled them clearly. When I wrapped my grandfather's watch, still safe in its velvet case, I put it in the shoebox marked bedroom, top drawer. That label would matter later, more than I realized. I didn't touch anything that belonged to Ethan, not even a throw pillow. I wanted no accusations, no drama, no ammunition. By Thursday, my side of the closet was empty, half the shelves bare, the dresser drawers hollow. That evening, Ethan finally noticed. He stood in the hallway, staring at the stack of labeled boxes by the door. "Are you going somewhere?" "Yeah," I said. "When?" "This weekend." His face crumpled, like a child who just realized no one was coming to pick him up from school. "You're actually leaving?" "Ethan," I said gently, "we had conversations. You just never listened." He opened his mouth, but nothing came out. His eyes darted around the room, searching for a version of me who wasn't here anymore. I didn't wait for him to find her. I walked past him, carried another box to the door, and stacked it with the others. Later that night, Lena texted, "Got the truck ready. You want coffee or peace in the morning?" I replied, "Peace, I'll bring the coffee." I went to bed knowing that by Saturday morning I'd be gone. New address, new locks, new life. Leaving didn't need to be dramatic, it just needed to be done. Saturday morning arrived soft and quiet, the kind of quiet that feels like a clean slate. Ethan wasn't home. Harper had dragged him out for emotional support shopping, which meant it was the perfect window to leave without theatrics. I moved quickly. Boxes by the door. Ready. Clothes packed. Books sorted. Kitchen wiped down. My grandfather's watch, carefully wrapped in velvet inside the shoebox labeled bedroom, top drawer. I didn't open the box again. I knew exactly what was in there, or at least I thought I did. Knock. 2 quick taps. I opened the door to find Lena holding coffee in one hand and a grin in the other. "This," she said, stepping inside, "is the most organized breakup I've ever seen. Truly inspirational. Marie Kondo is shaking." "Let's just finish before he comes back," I said. "And miss the scene? Ugh, fine." We worked in silence at first, me carrying boxes, Lena taking the heavier ones like some sort of smug older sister bodyguard. Every trip down the stairs felt like peeling off another layer of chaos I'd been living under. My desk, my TV, my side table, the couch I paid for. Piece by piece, shipping out the life I built while Ethan and Harper turned it into a stage. At one point, Lena wiped her hands on her jeans and looked around. "This place looks like a rental listing again," she said. "You should leave a brochure, now accepting emotionally stable tenants." I laughed, but it caught in my chest. It wasn't sadness. It was the weight of finally being done. By noon, everything I owned was in my new apartment, a small one-bedroom downtown. Not glamorous, not spacious, but mine. Clean, quiet. No perfume sweet air from Harper. No shouting. No constant commentary. Just space. Just ownership. Just peace. That night, around 8 p.m., my phone began vibrating nonstop. I ignored it, but it kept going. Buzz, buzz, buzz. Voicemails, texts, missed calls. Ethan had gotten home. The first voicemail was pure shock. "Agnes, what the hell? Where is everything? Why would you do this?" Then anger. "You're insane. You can't just walk out and take all your stuff. Come back right now." Then panic. "You didn't even say goodbye. Who does that? Please, can we talk?" I set the phone down face first. Lena, sitting across from me with takeout, raised an eyebrow. "He's on stage 3 of narcissism," she said casually. "Rage. Stage 4 is begging. Stay tuned." Not even 20 minutes later came the text. "Can we talk? Please, I just want to fix this." Lena pointed with her chopsticks. "Stage 4, right on schedule." I didn't reply. Not out of spite, because there was nothing left to say. Over the next few days, the messages became a revolving door of moods: sad, angry, desperate, cold, accusatory, nostalgic, manipulative. The entire emotional color palette. I ignored them all. Silence wasn't a weapon, it was self-respect. By midweek, I'd unpacked enough to breathe in my new place without tripping over boxes. I lit a candle, put books on the shelf, hung a print I'd always loved but never had room to display. It felt like a home made from scratches, not damage. That night, I finally opened the shoebox labeled bedroom. Top drawer. The one where I'd placed my grandfather's watch. The velvet pouch felt strangely light in my hand. My stomach tightened. I opened it. Empty. For a moment, my mind refused to process it. I dumped the box on the floor, rummaging through every corner, every scrap of tissue paper. Nothing. I tore through the bedroom boxes next, then the living room ones, then the kitchen ones. Nothing. My breath went shallow. No. I forced myself to sit on the edge of the bed. My hands were shaking. The watch wasn't just expensive, it wasn't just sentimental. It was the last thing my grandfather gave me before he passed. The only item from him I'd taken through every move, every apartment, every phase of my life. Losing it felt like losing him all over again. I grabbed my phone and called Lena. She answered on the second ring. "What's wrong? You sound like you found Harper hiding in a cabinet." "The watch," I whispered. "It's gone." She went quiet. "You're sure it's not in another box?" I checked everything, twice. Another silence, then slowly. "Agnes, do you think he took it?" My throat tightened. I didn't want to say it. I didn't want to believe it. But a new message appeared at the top of my screen. It was a photo. A pawn shop receipt with a timestamp from yesterday. Under it, Ethan had written, "Next time you walk out on someone, don't be surprised when it costs you." For 1 full minute, I didn't move, just stared as the words sank through my ribs. Lena's voice came through the phone. "Agnes, what happened?" "He sold it," I said softly. "He actually sold my grandfather's watch." A long silence. Then, "Oh, congratulations," Lena said dryly. "You dated a future true crime case. I hope they interview me on the documentary." That almost made me laugh. Almost. But all I felt was a cold, clean sense of clarity. He didn't just cross a line, he torched it. The next morning, I walked into the police station. The officer at the desk was calm, kind, and professional. He took one look at the screenshots, the pawn shop receipt, Ethan's text, and nodded slowly. "You did the right thing filing this report," he said. They called the pawn shop, placed an immediate hold, and pulled the watch from circulation while they verified ownership. Walking out of that station felt surreal. I expected anger. I expected tears. Instead, I felt steady. Because this wasn't revenge. It was accountability. Later that afternoon, Lena came by with food and her signature brand of comfort. "You're officially my hero," she said. "You left quietly, filed a report, and got your watch back before it became someone else's midlife crisis purchase. Honestly, iconic." A day later, the officer called. They recovered the watch. It'd be ready for pickup once the paperwork cleared. Ethan, meanwhile, didn't get off so easily. His employer ran ongoing background checks. When the shop's vendor flagged the new case number, HR suspended him. Lena's response? Karma clocked in for overtime. Harper's response? She unfollowed him, untagged every photo, posted a vague Insta story about removing negative energies. Classic Harper, vanishing the moment consequences arrived. Ethan's response? "Agnes, please, I'm sorry. I didn't think. Everything is falling apart. Can we talk?" He still didn't understand. He still thought this was about the watch. But the watch was just evidence. The real crime was everything that came before it. I turned the phone over. Silence again. Not cold, not punishing. Just final and peaceful. The day I picked up my grandfather's watch from the police station felt strangely soft, like the world was cushioning me from everything that had led up to it. The officer handed it over in a labeled evidence bag. "We were able to pull it before the pawn shop processed it," he said. "It's in perfect condition." I thanked him, signed the papers, and stepped outside. The sun hit the bag just right, catching the tiny scratch on the watch's side, the one Grandpa always joked gave it character. Holding it didn't bring tears. It brought clarity. I didn't get the watch back because Ethan let me. I got it back because I stopped letting people take things from me. Time, space, peace, and finally, something irreplaceable. A few days later, I got a call from the detective. "Theft charge is officially filed," he said. "First offense, but still a misdemeanor. He'll have to complete restitution and community service." I thanked him again and hung up. Lena, hearing the news, appeared at my apartment door minutes later with takeout and a look of someone who had been waiting to celebrate. So, she said, dropping bags onto the counter, the king of self-pity finally met a consequence. I raised my eyebrows. Lena. No, no, she said, waving a chopstick like a royal scepter. This is a historic moment. Justice. Karma. A full circle plotline. I want to savor it. I couldn't help laughing. Not a bitter laugh, an actual one. It felt good. Word traveled fast through Ethan's world. Harper, his one-woman cheer squad, vanished like smoke. One day she was tagging him in memes. The next, she'd scrubbed every trace of him from her feed. Her final message to the world was a vague Instagram story. Protecting my peace, cutting off toxicity. Which was ironic, considering she'd been the main supplier. Ethan didn't disappear. He started reaching out again, in long waves of guilt-drenched self-pity. Agnes, I know I messed up, but did you have to ruin my life over this? I already feel horrible. Hours later, I miss you. Everything is falling apart. Please just talk to me. Not one message said, I understand what I did. Not one message said, I'm sorry I violated your trust. Not one message said, I was wrong. Just the same cycle. His consequences is my fault. Classic. Lena saw the notifications lighting up my phone and snorted. He's trying to cast the movie where he's the victim, she said. Don't audition. I'm not, I replied, flipping the phone over. He's talking to himself. Because that was the truth. Every text he sent was addressed to the old version of me, the one who softened his mistakes, smoothed his ego, stitched over his chaos. That woman didn't live here anymore. Weeks passed. My life settled into something normal. I went to work, came home, ate dinner without a shouting match in the background, read in silence, slept deeply for the first time in months. I didn't feel lonely. I felt unburdened. The apartment was still simple, bare walls, a half-furnished bedroom, but it felt like a place I actually lived, not a place I merely survived in. Saturday mornings became my favorite. Sunlight through the window, fresh coffee, soft music, no Harper voice cracking through the walls, no Ethan pacing in circles fueled by drama, just stillness. Then one afternoon, something unexpected happened. The peace shifted. Not in a bad way, in a new way. I was leaving work, keys in one hand, coffee in the other, when the universe decided gravity needed entertainment. My keys slipped, clattered on the sidewalk. Before I could bend down, a hand reached for them at the same time mine did. Oh, sorry, a voice said. I looked up. A man, maybe early 30s, warm eyes, neat scrubs, hospital badge clipped to his pocket, held out my keys. Rough day? He asked, smiling. I let out a breathy laugh. A little. You look like you've had worse, he said gently, not flirtatious, observant. That's not inaccurate, I admitted. He laughed softly. Name's Daniel Ortiz. I work over at the clinic on 12th. Agnes, I said. Accountant. Very exciting. No scrubs. Well, Agnes the accountant, he said. Try not to drop your entire life next time. Keys are replaceable, but the coffee? He shook his head. Tragic loss. I snorted. Actually snorted. He grinned. We ended up talking for a few minutes. Nothing deep, nothing intense, nothing resembling the exhausting emotional marathons Ethan used to put me through. Just two people, standing in evening sunlight, having a normal conversation that didn't feel like a trap or a test. When we parted, he waved. See you around, Agnes. I found myself hoping that I would. Weeks went by. I saw Daniel again. Accidentally at first, then not accidentally. Coffee turned into real conversations. Conversations turned into lunches. Nothing dramatic, nothing rushed. Just ease and respect and space to breathe. One evening, after seeing him, I came home and sat by the window. I pulled out my grandfather's watch and fastened it around my wrist. The ticking was steady, reliable, even. For a moment, I looked around my apartment, clean, quiet, my own, and realized something. Ethan didn't lose me because I gave up. He lost me because he never valued what he had. He lost me long before I walked out. He just didn't notice until I stopped turning around when he called. As for me, I gained something I'd forgotten how to recognize. A life where peace wasn't the rare exception. It was the baseline. The watch ticked softly. So did I.